intelligent talk that's sure to raise the IQ.
Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio, Inside the News.
Welcome back to our second segment of Inside the News. Glad to have you with us as we talk about international items on this one. At the top left, actually, you see Frank Vernuccio. In the bottom middle, Ben Brunson. My name's Guy Wehman, and I'm on the top right. Ben, let's get right started with you. Grammar's wasn't good right there, but I'm telling you that it's interesting. Everybody says, let's get out of Afghanistan. We got to pull out. Everybody says, let's get out of there. And quite frankly, it's probably about time, isn't it?
Well, it's been a long time that we've been involved. We are clearly not going to accomplish the type of rebuilding of Afghanistan into a modern state that we perhaps hoped at the heyday of our involvement. Frankly, my view for over a decade has been that the right thing to do is to stop our combat activities on the ground in terms of trying to pacify regions like the Helmand province, and instead just withdraw to one or two central bases like Bagram, and essentially keep a presence where we can reach out and touch people. And by that I mean kill people that we need to kill, international terrorists that emerge inside Afghanistan. And I think that's where we're going to wind up. It bothers me when I hear about U.S. troops succumbing to IED attacks and those types of isolated attacks, because we're not achieving anything on the ground. And like I said, the only real value of being there is we have the ability to have a local force and a base to operate out of, where we can go out and kill the people we need to kill that pose an international threat on the terrorist level.
Outside of what has happened in the past here, Frank, Barack Obama, he actually would have said, we're announcing that we're going to be getting out October 1st. Well, the bad guys didn't wait. Trump does things a little bit different. He just says, we're doing it, and he does it almost immediately, doesn't he?
Well, Barack Obama's mastery of the arts of the military was absolutely infinitesimal. There are two things that destroy the ability of the United States to do well in an overseas conflict. One is an inability to enunciate an end goal. World War II was the complete and total surrender of our enemies. In Afghanistan, no one seems to be able to enunciate what that goal is. The second is, frankly, a limited war. There really is no such thing as a limited war if you're an 18-year-old kid with an M16 in your hand. The fact of the matter is the United States has an obligation to that 18-year-old kid with an M16 in his hand. If we're going to put them in harm's way at all, we owe them every capability of the United States military to be employed in his defense and in the gaining of the objective of why we sent him there in the first place. The limited wars in places like Vietnam and now Afghanistan simply betray, I think, the faith that we must keep with our young men who we send over. I don't believe in the concept of a limited war. If we're going to fight, we fight totally. We fight to the elimination of the enemy's ability to fight back. That's not happening anymore in Afghanistan, and there's no reason to stay except, as Ben correctly pointed out, having a limited presence where we could reach out and destroy the opposition that threatens some kind of new 9/11, new international threat.
I think Frank has hit on something, the rules of engagement. And if I'm part of that, it's like, if I'm going to fight, I want to fight to win. I don't want to fight just to we're just going to kind of maintain. No, we're going to fight to win. You're either all in or you're all out. And am I correct on that, Ben?
Oh, yes, but it does start, as Frank said perfectly, it starts with delineating your strategic objective. The original objective in Afghanistan, which was the correct one, was to not deny Afghanistan as a base for international terrorists and terrorism. That was why we went in. It was not to liberate the people of Afghanistan from the medieval ideology of the Taliban. Unfortunately, as so often happens, once we were there, it morphed into the latter. We decided, well, we have to allow Afghan women the right to read and go to school and everything else, which is a noble goal, but it was the wrong goal because it was not an achievable goal. And the fact is that the Afghan people have to fight that battle themselves. And they have chosen time and again in the countryside to turn back towards the Taliban ideology. So it's not a strategic objective of ours, whereas we have a continuing obligation to deny Afghanistan as a terror base.
Okay, Angela Merkel, and she's really good friends with Putin, it seems to be, but is she still the till of the Hun here, Frank?
Angela Merkel is a one-woman wrecking crew for Europe, whether we're talking about illegal immigration, whether we're talking about the independence of Europe from Russian domination, particularly in terms of natural resources, energy. She has been as devastating to Europe as some other German leaders we don't care to name. The fact of the matter is, Europe's dependence, intentional dependence on Russia for its energy supplies is really bad for the entire continent. Angela Merkel had an opportunity to turn Europe away from that by dealing more with the United States in terms of energy supplies. She chose not to do that. And as she continues to look more towards Putin and less towards the United States, the worse it is for the continent as a whole. You have to wonder whether her East German background is something that influences her a lot more than a lot of people want to admit.
We have 60 seconds here, Ben, and NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization there, that was to protect Europe from Russia. At least initially, that's what I thought it was. And if you're befriending that, then it's like there's a double standard there, even, or maybe it's something's not congruent here in the thinking.
Well, look, the reality is on the ground has changed completely. NATO existed to defend Europe from the Warsaw Pact, the Soviet bloc, and that threat is largely gone. And most of Eastern Europe is now in NATO. So if there's still a threat from Russia, to the extent there is one, that threat has moved to the east. And the U.S. is relocating its forces in reaction to that. So we're doing the right thing. And Donald Trump has led a strategic realignment towards Poland and Romania and countries like that, and away from Germany, where there's no longer a direct threat at all from Russian military forces.
All right, that was Ben Brunson. You can find Ben at benbrunson.com, amazon.com. Frank Vernuccio, top left. You can find him at usagovpolicy.com. We're going to take our second time out. We're going to be talking about Biden. Biden is talking about everything Trump's been talking about, and he's trying to claim it as his own. Seriously? That's right. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.